How does having a baby change my life? Does having a baby change my life? No. I'm being really sarcastic. Hi ladies, it's Abby McKenna from Ready Set Mum, and today we're going to talk about the changes that happen to your life when you have a baby. Now, I remember my dad telling me when I called him in hysterics, telling him that I was pregnant and I didn't know what to do and what step to take next and if I was ready for it. And I remember my dad saying, Abby, your life doesn't have to change. Your baby fits into your life. Liar, Dad, liar. No. Look, in some aspects that is true. You can absolutely make your baby, your children fit into your world, but I kind of think times have changed since my dad had me. Like when my dad had me, he was a football coach and he was allowed to take me to the footy club and come 10 o'clock, shove me under a pool table or one of the footy club dinner tables with a pillow and a doona, and the other kids call it a sleep out, and that was perfectly acceptable. Unless you live in Bali like I do at the moment, you can't do that anymore, and you feel really bad when you do. So now we're going to look at some of the funny things, but also some of the serious things that changes in your life when you have a baby. First of all, along with physical changes, right? Because as women, we sometimes like to take time out to make ourselves look good and do things like waxing and going to the gym. And that can be really hard. And especially after you've had a baby and you want to get back on the horse, but then, you've got a baby and it's crying and it takes time. Look at this. I haven't had time to wax my eyebrows, okay, but that's okay. So physical changes, let's look at the physical changes. Your body changes when you have a baby. Your belly stretches, your ligaments change. For me, my body shape changed a lot, okay? I remember after my first child, I went from a person who wasn't body confident to someone who really put in a lot of work and effort to get fit. And then I put on 23 kilos during my pregnancy. Partially was fluid retention, part of it was baby weight, and the rest of it was a jar of Nutella every night. But I didn't pop back like my 15-year-old foster daughter did after that. It took work, it took time, and I remembered feeling like I did all of those years ago, just not being comfortable with myself. A number of women will get stretch marks, but my shape changed. So my waist isn't as small as it used to be anymore. My everything's a little bit broader. I always had these banging baby making hips, but now they're super banging. I've got to watch myself when I walk through narrow corridors. Okay, there is some serious packaging to my booty and my hips now, and everything sort of sagged a little bit. So my boobs used to sit up here nicely, and they were big. Right, my nickname at high school was Mammaries for a reason. And often when I see people from high school, the first question they ask me was, where did your boobs go? And I'm like, oh, just let me untuck them from my pants and I'll show them. They're still there, they're just empty and deflated, like two sort of eggs running down the front of me. Deflated balloons, okay? So everything changes, and this can be really hard. But what you can do is actually head to Ready Set Mum. We've got a really great article and video there of about 30 different things that you can do that will suit you, your lifestyle and your personality to get back on the body confidence train, right? But there's also, with the physical comes hormonal changes, which can create emotional changes. Let's look at emotional changes. Okay, so emotionally, your body gets an absolute workout when you are a mum, but also while you are pregnant. Your body has a crazy amount of hormones operating in your body to help you to develop your beautiful growing baby. I was a crier before I had a baby. Oh my God, talk about crying. Now, I can't watch an advert about a children's diaper without bawling at how cute that baby is. I can't watch an underdog team come up and beat another team on a sports show without absolutely losing my mind. I cannot hear a story that is even remotely relatable to being a mother. Whether it's sad or happy, I completely cry. And then all of a sudden, You often will feel judged. There's a whole heap of pressure that comes with having a baby because we look at magazines, we watch shows, and we compare ourselves to other mothers. And a really important thing that we need to do is understand that there will be emotional changes. It's a part of our makeup. It's a part of the way that our brain operates in order for us to feel protective and want to support our children. It's completely normal, but being able to relax into that, embrace that, understand our emotions. I'm a huge one for developing your mindset and understanding your emotional intelligence, understanding the way that your brain works and these subconscious sabotage and these horrible thoughts that we have about ourselves that completely aren't true, so that you can actually capture them and utilize them and allow yourself to feel good and know that you are doing an absolutely fantastic job. Now, let's look at that transition period, okay? Because there is a transition, and it doesn't matter if it's a transition from not being a mum to being a mum, to being a mum with one child to two children, or so on and so forth. There's often a transition period, right? I remember when I first found out I was pregnant, I was 29. So I was actually above the age of the average women having a baby. But I literally didn't know if I was emotionally ready, if I was physically ready. I was on 6 figures, a single woman in a stable job, okay, and I was not sure if I was ready. Like, I remember the first words I said to Ayla was, okay, excellent. Now I've got to keep you alive. I was not sure. I didn't feel like I was ready in myself. I didn't feel like I had the ability to love like I needed to love. That all changed. Don't worry, that all changed. But then I didn't know if I was responsible enough either, because I really enjoyed my life. I really enjoyed being a single woman, being able to make decisions for myself, to grab my friends and go out. And then all of a sudden you find that you can't necessarily do that. You can't do what your other friends without children are doing. I went from a career woman to a stay-at-home mum, cleaning up nappies and spew. That took time. Ladies, that transition period takes time. And I know you've heard this so many times, that there is no rule book. No one is ever going to give you a rule book. If I was going to create a rule book for motherhood, I would have a hardcover that would say, here is the rule book for motherhood, and then it would be blank, right? Because you literally have to do what works for you. Every single baby is different, and they start developing these personalities, and you sort of fumble through it and you wonder whether you're doing the right thing, and then you have all of these different concerns. It was literally, and I love that Anne, the beautiful mum that wrote this article at Ready Set Mum, referenced Britney Spears. You know, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman. That's how I felt. And I know so many of us out there feel like that, even if we are a little bit older. I had my second baby when I was in my 30s. I was really excited for it. But once again, all of a sudden I had a little one, and then I had a big one. And my main concern was protecting my little one from my big one, right? Because my big one thought that it was okay to carry her. I have been to the hospital because my big one has dropped my little one on the tiles, okay, which brings me to the mental changes. Mentally, things change for you. You have more than yourself, or more than just yourself and your partner and your career to think about now. You have the development of another human. You have the successful foundations and growth of another human, or more than one human if you are like me and you are but with more than one child, right? And all of a sudden, your energy, your thoughts need to dart out at a million different things. We are literally superheroes, Mum. We can sit there and scan a room and go, that's where I need to be. That one's not quite in trouble yet, but this one's about to dive into a pool, so I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to save this one from the stove, and then I'll sort out the other one, right? Your brain does not sleep. I remember speaking to one of my beautiful friends, and she said, what is it like being a mum? And this is when I went back to work, and I said, you know, it's really interesting. I'm really productive. I'm so productive because I can't wait to get home to my babies. But my brain is never without thinking about that little person. Even if they are not with me physically on my person, if they are at childcare, my brain is constantly thinking about this little person. I no longer own my brain. I no longer own my mind. It belongs to this person. I've had to work really hard, ladies, at being able to zone out and relax and be able to focus my energy purely on me, purely on my partner, purely on whatever that is for little bits at a time, and that takes work. It's part of our instincts. It's a part of the package. And all of a sudden, you know, I remember as a single mum, I was sort of thinking this far ahead. Now I'm thinking this far ahead, because it's not just my future that is in detriment if I make mistakes. It's a little person's future that is in detriment if I make mistakes. And mistakes aren't wrong, ladies. If we make them, it's perfectly fine. We just learn from them and do better. But there is a lot of changes that comes with having a baby. Then there's the relationship changes. Your relationship will change. It will, and it's perfectly okay, because relationships are forever evolving. Relationships are not a stagnant. Relationships are a variable. There is two people in your relationship. If you are a mother in a relationship at the moment, it's not just you. It is also your partner, whoever you have chosen to help to parent your child. And there are variables involved. It takes work. And you do become a different person, because before you could just focus on the both of you in whatever that looked like for you. That's not possible now. There's another little person to the mix, and time is taken away from your relationship. You have to become really clever. I am such a huge ambassador for date night. Even if you're a single mum, what that means is grab your friends, get on Tinder, get on Peanut, or spend some time with yourself. But if you have a partner as well, date night is not just a luxury. It is important. It can keep that spark there. It's so important for connection. We actually have a fantastic article here at Ready Set Mum with fantastic ideas for date night for every type of couple and everything that you're looking for, whether that's to reignite the romance. Because how hard is that after you have a baby? You feel like this drabby, deflated balloon, and then they're crying, and then there's nappies, and then, you know, I've had that moment where I've gone, I'm going to give my partner a cuddle, and I've brought my hands there and went, I probably need to wash them again. Why do I have poo everywhere? Right? Things change. You might have been used to this amazing, hip, fantastic, outgoing person. You are still that person. Okay, this is one thing that a lot of women find, is that they lose their identity. They lose their identity. All of a sudden they become just as mum, and they feel like, I'm just mum. That's who I am. Abby? Who was that? I used to know her. There was an Abby that used to hang around sometime, and she was still kind of cool. Ladies, hang on to your identity. Do what you need to, and we've got a fantastic article about mum regrets and sometimes hating being a mum, and things that you can do to retain that and make life easier and enjoy it. But you are still that sexy, amazing woman. You really are. You know what? You're even more than what you were before, because you grew a human. Like, you grew a human inside of your body. That's a mad feat. That is absolutely phenomenal. But then, ladies, you also change. And this is okay. And I think this is something that we often talk about as a negative. Have you ever heard someone come to you and say, you've changed? Fantastic. So I should. The world's evolving, and I need to evolve as well. Who wants to stay the same for their whole entire life? Who wants to have the exact same experience every single day, their whole entire life? Change is a good thing. You are entitled to have new goals. You are entitled to think about your passions and reach your passions. You are entitled to parent the way that you want to, and go from that single or childless person to that person that now has a child and is so passionately in love with them, and sometimes loses their mind, okay? Because that happens. You're allowed to sometimes have those moments where your friends will knock on the door and you'll walk out and you've got half a cold coffee in a cup, half of it's down your front, you've got casserole and poo in your hair, and you're a blithering mess because you're exhausted and you're tired. It's all a part of the journey, right? And it's all going to be absolutely fantastic, but you do change. Your considerations change. Your thoughts change. Your emotions change. You know, for some of us ladies, our physique changes, but that's exciting. Embrace it. Love it. It's a part of the journey when we have little people. And you know, the really cool thing about this is that when your little people have little people, payback, right? Payback. They have to change too. But most importantly, ladies, you are still you. You are amazing. You are entitled to live your life. You are entitled to live your dreams. You are entitled to self-care. You are entitled to happiness. You are entitled to have time for yourself to go and wax your eyebrows. I'm gonna go do that once I finish this, by the way. You are entitled to have time to develop your relationship. You are entitled to all of those things. Just because you've got a child now doesn't mean that you can't do the things that you used to do. It does sometimes just take a little bit more smarts, a little bit more consideration sometimes, and a little bit more planning. Enjoy your journey, ladies. Please let us know here at Ready Set Mum how your life changed. What were the difficult changes? What are the changes that you are really, really happy about? And let us help you here. Let us have this conversation together. You know, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village of mums for us just to be kick-ass amazing mums. We all are, and when we rise together, you know, we rise individually as well. Have a fantastic day. Please give this video a like and a share, and we'll see you back here really soon at Ready Set Mum.